Golly, tell us who's dropping by. I'm here with Raquel Mullaney, co-founder and co-owner of 1620 Wine Bar down on Water Street. Thanks so much for coming to the Plymouth Show.
Thanks for having me, Marilee.
Can you tell us about 1620 Winery?
Well, we are located in the Village Landing Marketplace down on Water Street, right across from East Bay Grill, and we have been opened for a year. Memorial Day weekend, we celebrated our 1-year anniversary, and my husband Bob is a winemaker, and he's making everything from reds, whites, rosés, as well as the traditional fruit wines that have been made in that winery for over 30 years.
Okay, wait, hang on, because this is unbelievable to me that wine is made in Plymouth, right? I mean, you know, do you use salt water? Hopefully not, right?
Good wine is made in Plymouth.
Good wine is made in Plymouth.
Yes.
So, you know, you mentioned that it's been for 30 years.
Correct.
And so tell me a little bit about how you make wine in Plymouth what the history is of the company.
It's very interesting that you asked that, because there was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Finkel who came into the bar very soon after we opened to do a very long historic history of the different wineries that started. At one point in time, there was 3 wineries in Plymouth, all with the word Plymouth in them. There was us, the Plymouth Winery, which is now the 1620. Then there's Plymouth Bay Winery, which is on Water Street as well. And there was Plymouth Colony Winery. So when we bought this, we thought it was in our best interest to probably change the name, since everybody was getting the 3 wineries mixed up.
Makes sense.
And there's only 2 of us left now, the Plymouth Bay Winery and the 1620 Winery. But we also wanted to distinguish ourselves because the basis of all of the Plymouth wineries was fruit wine. And when my husband bought it, he comes from a very long line of Sicilian winemakers. He makes reds, whites, and rosés to complement also the fruit wine.
Oh wow! Okay, so you have that broad, palette, if you will, of both fruit wine and grape wine. Where do you get the grapes?
So we get our grapes from 3 places. We get our cold climate grapes from Westport Rivers in Westport, Massachusetts, Hazlitt Vineyards in Naples, New York, in the Finger Lakes, and Lanza Vineyards in Napa, California.
Okay, but the wine making is actually in Plymouth.
Correct, at Cottage Park.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So I understand, I've been to the wine bar, which is quite beautiful.
Thank you.
And I've heard that there is something coming up. There's news with 1620 Wine Bar.
There is. We're pretty excited that the winery is launching its 2nd location down at the production center at Cottage Park. We will be extending it into a massive venue for corporate events, weddings. It will seat over 200 people.
Oh my gosh, we're going to have to bring you back for that. That's awesome. Yes. Now, can you tell me what your connection is with Plymouth? Is it just the fact that you're the proprietor with your husband of the wine bar, or is there a lot more than that?
I fell in love with Plymouth when I was 14 years old. That's when I met my first husband.
That's under the age of consent, just to have the record reflect. Right?
Well, it was a romantic story. I met my first husband here, and I've never left. The way this town has embraced me, not only raising my 4 children here and going through the Plymouth school systems, but running 2 businesses right out of Plymouth, whether it was Comfort Keepers or the Plymouth Wine Bar. Plymouth has wrapped its arms around Bob and I and welcomed us wholeheartedly.
Wow, so you've been here a long time.
Very long time. I'm a grandmother now.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I didn't move here until 20 years ago, which of course is really very recent relative to, it seems, to everybody else.
Yes.
So that's really cool. Now, tell me, if you've had several businesses.
Yes.
And so this is your latest venture.
This is the last one.
This is it. Okay, this is it.
This is my retirement.
You promise?
I promise.
What a smart person to start a wine business to retire to. Like, hello?
I hope when I'm 80, I'm still standing at that hostess stand saying, welcome to the 1620.
Oh, that's great. That's so cool.
I really do.
When you think back to starting a business, I find it, it's very romantic, the notion of starting a business and having a business. And the reality can be quite a different thing for many of us. Mm-hmm. And so I like to ask business owners like yourself, if you knew then when you started the winery what you knew now, what might you have done differently?
I think the biggest shock for me was going from a private duty home care company that industry had zero regulation to get up and running.
Which is quite amazing, isn't it?
It is quite
amazing. Compared to wine, right?
It is. You paid your $300, they gave you a license in your home care company. Wine, alcohol, and tobacco is so heavily regulated, and there's so many rules and regulations and hoops of fire, and you just don't know what you don't know.
So you kind of don't realize what you need until you're,
You don't. And I, talk about sliding into home plate sideways. The day we opened the 1620 Wine Bar is the day we got our liquor license. So it was a harrowing experience getting through that whole licensing process. So I'm happy that's over.
Yeah.
And you only have to do it once.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So now, why did you choose wine?
This is actually a pretty funny story. So again, back to selling our previous business. It was a year-long process, and neither one of us, my husband or myself, knew what we were going to do next, but we knew we wanted it to be small with not a lot of employees. And so my husband said, I'm 55 years old, I'm either going to be a musician and write songs for a living, or I'm going to be a winemaker. And we yucked it up and thought that was very funny. But then fast forward 8 months, and he saw an ad in the paper that said the Plymouth Winery on the waterfront was for sale. He looked at the ad, he looked at me, and he said, what do you think? I said, okay. And the rest, as they say, is history.
That's fabulous. Yeah. Wow, what a great story.
The universe has a wonderful way of playing a joke on you.
Right. So what's your favorite wine that you have at 1620?
I'm a really big red fan, and my husband makes an amazing Barbera that is my absolute favorite.
I've had that. Yeah, it's wonderful.
I love it.
It's wonderful.
I love it. And we had a Sangiovese that we're still learning about supply and demand, and we actually ran out at Christmas. And he just recently put more in a bottle, and I think his second batch is actually better than the first batch.
Wow, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely have to have you back because there's no end to this wine talk with you and I. Thank you so much for coming by. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm pleased to welcome Tatum Stewart, owner of Craft Beer Cellar, to the Plymouth Show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me about Craft Beer Cellar.
Craft Beer Cellar, we're a craft beer and wine store primarily focused on beer. Everything in our store is mix your own six-pack, so you can do anything as the individual. The difference in our store is our staff are all what we call Cicerone certified. So that
what is that?
Cicerone.
Cicerone, okay.
Yeah, so in the wine world it would be the equivalent of a somm. So if you came in and said, I'm having pork with a demi-glaze tonight, what beer pairs with that? Our staff would be able to tell you that. They'd be able to tell you the history of all the styles. You could come in and say, I don't like grapefruit, but I like oranges, and we could pick out beers based on their hop profile.
Okay, come on. I mean, I'm sorry. This is just, I never thought of that. So it's almost like you are beer connoisseurs.
Our life, yeah. I mean, we really get nerdy and geeky about it, and all of us, it's our passion, it's our lives, it's not just a place that we work.
So if I'm preparing some special kind of food or buying some certain kind of takeout, I can come to Craft Beer Cellar and tell you what I'm planning on serving the same way I would do perhaps at a wine store?
Absolutely. We have a lot of customers who walk downtown who will stop in and say, oh, I just picked this up from, Speedwell or the Tasty. What do you think will go with it tonight?
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah. That's really cool. I didn't realize that existed.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually do a beer and food pairing class that we offer twice a year.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah. Do you have an email list that people can sign up for?
We do. We have an
and
email
get notified?
list. And we put a lot of things on Facebook as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Great. I saw that I love the idea of mix and match. That's just so much fun because, you get stuck with a six-pack and you don't know when it's craft beers, if you haven't had it before, if you're going to enjoy it. So I noticed that this is from you, obviously.
Yes.
You brought the show something. Let me see. Oh, I'm stuck. Oh, wow. That is so cool. So let's just take out one. Let's put it on Plymouth Rock. All right.
Which is why they came here, because they were running out of provisions, which was beer.
And didn't they drink beer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lower alcohol, didn't have the same hop profile of what we're used to now, but it was the safest form of hydration. Hops are actually an antimicrobial and antibacterial naturally. So that's what kept the water safe.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So we've got an organic. That's my. How did you know? What is this? How do you pronounce this?
That's the Rattenberg, and that is from Germany.
Oh wow. Okay. Oh. So how many beers do you have?
Every day it changes. Right now we're probably about 710. And as you were saying earlier about the 6-packs, I have a little analogy. I say buying one beer is dating, buying a 6-pack's a prearranged marriage. You just don't know. You just don't know.
You know, it's tough to commit.
Yes.
I mean, it's a commitment. So now, how did you decide to start craft beer?
I had spent 15 years in human services, really perpetuated my love of craft beer. And I was driving to work one day and I just said, you know, I'm done. I really want to do my passion. And craft beer cellar, you know, allowed me to be able to do that. Love craft beer, the community. It's very unique. You would never see Pepsi and Coke getting together to make a drink together. You will see that across the board, whether it's international, domestic, for breweries. It's a very collaborative, innovative industry.
And I think Plymouth has to be the perfect profile of a town to have this kind
It's wonderful.
of a retail store.
It really is.
Yeah.
The walking downtown, in the 2.5 years we've been here, we've definitely seen a lot more foot traffic. The walking downtown it's a thing. It's happening.
It's a thing, yep.
Yeah, especially with the condos coming in, we see a lot more foot traffic from that. And you know, there's some great bars and restaurants, which is really unique to Plymouth. Most bars and restaurants are trying to price gouge each other or figure out who's doing what. We're all friends. So everybody stops in each other's restaurant every day. They hang out outside of that. They go to each other's birthday parties. It's just a very unique situation that when people from out of town in the industry come into town, they're blown away by it.
Wow. So it is really an unusual.
Very unusual.
Yeah. So tell me about your connection to Plymouth.
I actually grew up on the Cape. Traveled all over the country for the military in my career. Always loved the Cape. I had come up to Plymouth for a day trip and just fell in love with it and thought, I am going to live there someday. It will happen. And it did.
And it did.
Yeah, I'm walking distance to my store. It's perfect.
Wow, that's fabulous. That is really something.
I love everything here, honestly from the public school to, I know not popular, but town hall. They've been great to us. Just everyone's been wonderful.
Now, one of the things I love asking business owners, especially, you know, you're a couple of years in, almost 3 years in.
Right.
And so, you know, you're a survivor. And
so far.
And, you know, we all have our dings and dents and scars from the
Yes.
first 2 or 3 years, certainly.
Yes.
So let me ask you, from a business owner point of view, if you knew then what you know now, what might you have done different?
I think the initial starting of the business, if I had known the hoops we were going to have to jump through that weren't always cohesive, I wish I had had a better outline of when to go to historic and when to go to building and all of that. So just the startup process.
Okay.
In terms of business in Plymouth, I really feel like we were so supported by the community that we didn't have too many issues in terms of what we should have done better or different. You know, one thing we have changed is we've increased our wine selection.
Okay.
We definitely started with a very small section thinking, who's coming to us for wine? A lot of people, it turns out. A lot of people are coming to us for wine. So.
Wow. Okay. The last time I was there weren't many wines, so I will be there.
Yeah, we'll never be a wine store. You know, we're definitely beer focused, but what we look for in
absolutely.
our wine is small, off-label, estate label, that's really good liquid for the price point.
Interesting. Very good. Very good. Well, thanks so much for coming by. We're going to have to bring you back because I know we've only scratched the surface.
Great. Thank you for having me.
All right. Welcome, Michael Carr, to the Plymouth Show.
Thank you for the opportunities.
Now, I understand that you and your wife, Pamela, are the co-owners of Plymouth Bay Winery.
That is correct. My wife and I bought the winery from the original owner. He started the company over 23 years ago. We bought it a little over 6 years ago. Wow. And it's been a wonderful experience.
Now, I've seen the winery and I read a little bit about it, and one of the things that I found most striking is that you make wine and wine-related products.
That's
or you work with people who do.
That's correct.
And they're indigenously sourced. I mean, they're these are not made somewhere else and shipped here. They are made with local ingredients. Is that accurate?
That's right. We get for our wines, we work with growers throughout the Northeast, and they provide the juices. We get it as a juice.
Okay.
And then we ferment, we blend, we bottle, we do everything at the winery.
And is that all in? That's all in Plymouth.
That's all in Plymouth, right on the wall.
So it's just like, is it so behind the winery? Like if I go behind, is that where all those things would be?
It's right next to the tasting room. You can actually see it as you're doing a tasting.
Oh, it's in the same building.
It's in the same building.
Oh my God. Okay.
So, and overlooking Plymouth Bay. So that's.
Location.
That is true.
And you have parking right there.
That is really key.
Another thing, as the waterfront gets busier.
That's true.
Yeah.
We'd like to say we're a stone's throw from Plymouth Rock.
Yep. That's great.
So
now, how did you and Pamela decide to get in the wine business?
Well, what happened actually is that my wife and I came close to buying a business out of state. We were thinking of moving, but
so you were in Plymouth originally? Or?
I grew up in Hingham.
Oh,
and
okay, sure.
We live in Boston,
okay.
And we ended up doing a lot of wine tasting on weekends throughout the Northeast. And one of the things that we found, part of the experience about the wines, and what they can do to help create a better experience with them, because wine is something you share above any other.
Well, not always, but anyway, go ahead.
Wine,
we won't talk about that.
A bottle of wine is something you share generally on that too, and we try to encourage that because we want people to play with Bay.
Yeah, play with Bay.
Yes,
that's great.
Yes, that's true.
So you were wine lovers.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And you were, the best reason to start a business is you're frustrated with what's available.
That's true.
And so you said, we can do this better.
Yeah, that's what it was. I mean, our wines tend to be a little bit more fruit forward, so they're a little bit sweeter, but we wanted to, it was a really unique product. And I myself love all types of wines, and our wines kind of they scream New England summer. Okay, any time of year. They're easy drinking table wines. We tell people if they buy the wines to drink them within 6 to 12 months. We don't have a vintage wine or anything like that. So they're easy drinking table wines. That's why we make suggestions for sangrias. My wife is known as Dr. Sangria over there too. And
you know what? I saw that you brought in a recipe playbook.
You can download that for free on the website.
Oh, awesome.
She's on the Blackberry Bake page. So.
Wow, okay. So you make it easy for people to play with Bay and to enjoy the different. I noticed that there's recipes for a few of the products, not just the wine.
Oh, absolutely. We have recipes for the jellies and the sauces too, for ideas that people can use. And also we take recipes from our guests, and we've actually promoted one. If you go to the Blackberry Bay at the back, there was a cake that one of our customers from Oregon, her grandmother did, and it's a gorgeous piece of a bundt cake on the bottom.
Oh my God!
Look
Helen's Blackberry Wine Cake.
Yeah, the story behind that is that her grandmother came up with the recipe. She never drank until she was 92, and then the first wine she tried was our Blackberry Bay. And she incorporated that into her recipe. Unfortunately, she has since passed, but her daughter came to us last year and said, we want to thank you so much for publishing that recipe because that brought us so much joy, and it's bringing other people joy right now.
Oh, that's
too.
so sweet.
So
that's
really,
fabulous.
Yeah.
I know you were kind enough to bring a video for us to share, and I'm thinking if we could just have that as the backdrop, I think it does a beautiful job of giving us a flavor for what Plymouth Bay Winery is.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's we want it to be a really unique experience for you. You know, you should be able to enjoy it. You may or may not like our wines. You might like dry wines. I like dry wines myself too. But to experience something different, you know what I mean? And that's what you can do.
So I see you brought us quite a few things. My
Yes.
God. Widow's Walk.
That's our top-selling wine on a calendar year basis. That's 100% of the Cayuga grape, which was developed in Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, in the 1880s, and it has notes of apple and pear in it, and it tastes like a Riesling or Gewürztraminer.
Oh, and there's the outside.
There's the winery right there.
There was
yeah.
the parking.
Yep, and we do tastings on the deck, right? And that's
Oh, and look at that view.
That's
It's
the view you
just-
get.
Yeah.
And there's Dr. Sangria walking away right now too. Over there too.
Wow.
There she is, right there. And there she is at the lab, drinking a billionaire.
The lab. Oh,
Yes.
that's so funny. And so when do you have tastings?
Our tastings are Monday through Saturday from 10:30 to 5, or Sunday from noon to 5.
Okay. All right. And are you open year round?
What we've done, yeah, for the most part, in January and February, we're open on the weekends from 12 to 4, weather permitting. We extended it this past year, so we'll probably be open for Thursday through Sunday.
And I'm sure
And then
people can check out the website or give you a call just to double check during the winter.
Absolutely, and check out our
Yeah.
Facebook page on there too.
Oh, that's fabulous. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, she's been quite the inspiration. So.
So how did you decide to start this or to purchase this business in Plymouth? Were you looking to buy a wine business somewhere on the East Coast?
Well, I have to give my wife credit for this. She said, you know, we do a lot of wine tastings, and a winery opened up in Plymouth. And being from Hingham, I didn't even know that there was one available, that there was a winery in Plymouth. And we went down there. We had such a great experience with the former owner, and it was really it was something we really wanted to do.
It just clicked. It's
just clicked.
obvious that when hear you talk about it, it's almost like it's so obvious to you that.
I know, and you know,
It's wonderful.
the funny thing is, it's been 6 years and it's gone in a flash right
Wow.
now too. And you know, and I have to say, you know, one of our most satisfying things is seeing people try our wines and realizing that, wait a minute, I do like a sweet wine,
Yeah.
and we hope that they buy them, but they walk away and says, you know, that was the best wine tasting they ever had. You know,
We're gonna have to stop there. Thank you so much for being a part of the Plymouth Show.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.